Okay, folks, welcome aboard. I had some conversation with some students today about getting their phone to ring and found it interesting, so thought we'd do a bit of a training call on getting your phone to ring. You know, getting your phone to ring really just plays into Module 2 of lead generation. And the way this works is you have to be consistent, because consistency is what separates the men from the boys, so to speak, in this business. I can tell you over the last 10 years of doing this, in 1,000 houses, I've probably bid against 10,000 other investors. And the funny thing is most investors start a strategy, realize either no or no measurable results in the first month, and then decide they want to reinvent the wheel. And what we want to teach is that there are no magic bullets. There is going to be no one strategy that will allow you to simply mail out 10,000 postcards, make $20,000, and life is good. It's just not the way it works. If it was truly that easy, if it was truly as easy to get your phone to ring with motivated sellers as a lot of other information marketers and gurus would have you believe, the fact of the matter is that's what they would be doing instead of pushing their products nationwide. So just understand it takes dedication and commitment to make this work. So what we're going to do next is I'm just going to go over the different types of leads and the different things that you need to do to get these leads to generate income for you. So first, this all falls inside Module 2, lead generation. This is the module that you have to focus on. There are 10 different kinds of motivated sellers that George and I feel you should focus on. And these motivated sellers are probate leads, vacant and abandoned houses, pre-foreclosures, either trustee or sheriff sales, ugly but occupied houses, absentee owners, divorce, post-bankruptcy, NODs, which is a notice of default, or late mortgages, and REOs, which means it's a bank-owned property and expired listings. And we're going to take some time to go into these different lead types and tell you, if you really want them to call you, what you need to do. So first, and my favorite, is probate. Probate is, I have to back up and explain, not everyone that dies appears on the probate list. Probate is when there is a possession issue, or the estate is of a certain size, or there are disputes about ownership or disposition of property. That is, or if there's no will, that is when things have to be probated. Not everyone that dies probates. So that's myth number one. Okay, the other is not everyone that's on the probate list wants to sell the house that they just inherited. A lot of times you have it where the husband passes away and the wife wants to stay, or vice versa. You have it where there's only one child and that child is living at the house and he wants to stay. You have it where there may be a family member and the brothers and sisters agree to a mutual buyout. So the point is not every house on the probate is going to be sold, and actually a small percentage of them actually are going to be sold immediately. So in order to market to the, now I'll tell you that the people that do want to sell, that inherit a house, that are going to call an investor, are very motivated. They, a lot of times, have inherited a vacant, abandoned house that has very little marketability. A lot of times they've inherited a house that has had zero upkeep performed on it in the last 15 years. A lot of times they're inheriting a house that's in another state that there's just no interest from the heirs to try to manage an asset that is a long way away. So a lot of times that's when you've got to be on your A game with probate. So when they hit the probate list, that means that the person has passed away, or a person has passed away, and the heirs have all got together, there's an executor, and they go down with the will and they're probating the estate. So when they hit the quote-unquote probate list, that is when that person opens the probate case, or when something significant is happening at the probate court with that docket number, that case number. That is what triggers a probate list entry. So what I do is typically the list is available on the 5th through the 8th of every month. I immediately send out letters. My letters to probate went out today. And then I add that name onto the next 2 postcard runs that I have, no matter what zip code. So, for instance, if in my probate list today there was a decedent that owned a property in Irving, I would mail that letter today, and then on the backside, I would also mail them a postcard on October 1st and November 1st. So even if I'm mailing postcards to Mesquite October 1st, I'm going to add that Irving probate lead in with that postcard run. That way, because like I said, if they are going to sell, most likely they're going to sell quickly. So you want to add them into your next 2 postcard runs. And then you've got these 5 categories of motivated sellers come from what I call a dig lead. These are houses that either you visually identify or you have to do some legwork to locate. So we'll talk vacant and abandoned properties. The vacant and abandoned properties, the way to find this is you have to literally visually identify it. You have to be on their street and see the property. And what you do is you take that address, you look it up on the tax rolls, and you mail them the 6-letter series, and you add that address into your monthly postcard distribution for that zip code. So if I was out driving today and found a house in 75043 in Garland, I would take and immediately begin the 6-letter series that's part of the Flip That Contract portal. But then I would also open up my spreadsheet that I track my zip code mailers on, and make sure that that address was on that list, and if it was not, I would then add it to that list for the remainder of the 12 months. So you're going to, the ugly but occupied, the vacant, abandoned, and the absentee owners, or no, I'm sorry, not and the absentee owners, and the code violators, you're going to send them the 6-letter series and add them to the postcard schedule. Now the postcard schedule for the divorce leads that you find in the county records of any divorce proceedings, and the absentee owners that you identify by going through the tax rolls, what you're going to do there is you're going to add them into a rotation. And the rotation goes like this. Every address in your list should get a postcard from you every 3 months. So what I'll do here, guys, is I'm going to show you my actual schedule for the 2011 to 2012 calendar year, because I start my marketing in September every year. So we'll jump in here real quick, and I call these dig leads. You'll open up this master list. It's a rather large file. And here you have my counts. I have 19,573 owner-occupied properties, 2,872 absentee owners, a total of 22,445. I mail every 4 months because I have such a large list. So the total amount I send every month is $5,611. So it's about a $1,500 a month expense. Here's the summary by city for the owner occupied. Here's my summary by city for the absentee owner. And here's the totals by city. And then down here, and I'll actually, for those of you that are watching, let me zoom in here and show you in a little bit better. This is how I met. September was Garland. October, Rowlett, Richardson, Sunnyvale, Farmers Branch, and Carrollton. November, Mesquite. December, Dallas. Then in January, it starts over. Garland. February, Rowlett, Richardson, Sunnyvale, Farmers Branch, Carrollton. In March, Mesquite. April, Dallas. May, Garland. June, Rowlett, Richardson, Sunnyvale, Farmers Branch, Carrollton. In July, Mesquite. And then in August, Dallas. And then I trash the list and pull a new list. And then I begin the process all over again. So you notice this will show you why, this here shows you why I combine a lot of those cities, because I do focus primarily in Garland and Mesquite. You note how large the totals are, and East Dallas and North Dallas, so that's why they have so many more leads, and that's why everything else is all combined and cramped together. So, I mean, anyway, I'm going to go back to the presentation, but that is my schedule. I'm doing 4 months because I have such a large list, and I did not, due to budget constraints, I didn't want to send out 8,000 postcards a month. And, you know, that's what we're telling you guys to do as well. So, is to go every 3 months and base it off your budgets. So then you've got absentee owners and divorce, or code violators and divorce. You get those from the city hall. Jim Rostein did a great job going down and getting a list of code violators, and now it's up to him. He sends them a letter or a postcard immediately, and then he adds them to the every 3 month rotation. And then it's some front end work, guys. But once you do it, it's ready for the next 12 months, and that's the point. And you don't reinvent the wheel. Brian, one of the students, asked me today how many calls I got off my 6,000 mailer last week, and my answer was, I don't know. And I don't know because I know this for a fact. If you commit to the strategies that George and I teach you, your phone will ring. Now, is it going to ring immediately? Probably not. If you need it to ring immediately, we'll talk about that. But this is going to provide the most consistent, cost-effective, profitable lead source, what we've just talked about here. Next is pre-foreclosures, post-bankruptcy, and nods. These are going to be time-sensitive leads. So it's very important to understand that, and I feel like I need to point this out. Most likely, if someone's in a pre-foreclosure state, the thing you have to think about is they're probably 4, 5, 6, nowadays 8, 9 months behind. So most likely there's an arrearage of over $8,000. So if you're out trying to exercise a subject to strategy on a property that's $5,000 in arrears, when you do the math, that tells you that house better be perfect and move-in ready, because you're probably only going to get $5,000 to $10,000 down. If that house needs another 5 or 10 in work, you just absolutely have no deal there. So what I look for personally on pre-foreclosures are properties that are, I was teaching a student today, and this is going to be one of the most difficult phone calls and appointments you ever go on in this business. Because what will happen is you're going to get the call, and it's going to be a week before auction. And you're going to go to a house, and you're going to be sitting at a kitchen table with a husband and a wife, and there's going to be little kids running around the house. And what's going to happen is they're going to tell you the story about how they thought they could work it out with the bank. They thought the bank was going to work with them. They thought they were going to be able to borrow the money. It didn't come through, and they've now been hit with the cold reality that within 2 weeks, they will not have a home. And I'm just telling you, you cannot help every one of them. And we're going to talk about that in a second, but you're not going to be able to help everyone, because if they're $8,000-$10,000 in arrears in the house, and the kids have torn up the house and it needs $5,000 in make ready, in my professional opinion, that's not a house you want to spend too much time on, because it's going to be hard to get someone to give you $8,000 to $10,000 on a house that needs work within a week.
Well, I would say, the only thing I would say to that, Tim, is if the property doesn't have more than 30% equity, I think you're right. And I've told students before that, we've all said, you're focused on, primarily you focus on the deals where you can offer them, you make a cash offer. And this whole subject to mortgage assignments and all that is not new, but it complicates it a little bit. There's a ton of people that are interested in letting us take over their payments, but it's got to make financial sense for the end buyer, and whether that buyer is a consumer or an investor. So, if you guys are marketing to pre-foreclosures and they don't have at least 20% equity, then I would probably say you're wasting your time, because you got to assume they're $10,000 in arrearages. I mean, you mentioned 8, and nowadays these banks, like you said, some of these people haven't paid in a year. I mean, just because of the moratoriums and the robo-signing, and banks are running a little bit scared right now. So, in the loan mod programs and things of that nature, I'm seeing more and more of these people that are farther and farther behind. So it really kind of comes down to, it's got to make sense. I mean, and you've got to plug the numbers in and say, okay, we've got a $100,000 house and they owe 80 is the principal balance, but then there's $10,000 in arrearages. I don't know, other than a consumer might be interested in that, but you have to have at least 30 days to start marketing that. And unfortunately, with pre-foreclosures, you don't have 30 days. You only have 21 to begin with. And like Tim said, they're going to call you the last week before the auction because they took their head out of the sand, and now they want someone to save them, and we can't do it. I mean, and you need to tell them that. I can't guarantee, I can guarantee you one thing. We can make you a cash offer, but you, based on the numbers you're telling me, you're going to come to closing with cash. Other than that, I'm not making any guarantees we're going to be able to close this deal. Yeah. And if you can't accept that, then I'll, just show me the front door. It was nice meeting you, and do it in a polite and professional manner. But, you're not the one that put them in that position. And I know that we want to, it's in our DNA to want to help others, but at the same time, we're running a business. And the cold, hard facts is, hardships come to a lot of us. And you didn't put them in this position. You're trying to offer them a solution. But if the numbers don't make sense, if someone, has 10% equity, I don't mind buying that house, Tim, and I don't think you would either if you could step in and take over the payments and it cash flowed from day one, and I don't have to put any repairs. But it's not likely or probable, that that's going to happen with pre-foreclosures. It might, number 3 is NODs, which is notice of defaults, and there's a better likelihood of trying to take over payments, and they're
Hey, George, your microphone just went out. What George is saying is real important. You back? George?
Yeah, I'm unmuted now.
Yeah, what George is saying is very important, and it's the exact point I was trying to make when I started, and I think I got a little sidetracked. You're going to have to marry your ideal exit strategy with the type of leads you're working. A pre-foreclosure lead, someone that's 10 days from sale, in this day and age, 6 years ago, George, you and I saw people going to the auction block with $3,000 to $4,000 in arrearages. And back then it was pretty easy to, just make them up, do a quick bring to date, and get them out of foreclosure. But nowadays, you meet these people and they're 11, 12, 15, $20,000 in arrears, and that's not on a $400,000 house. That's on a 150. And so if you're on this call and you're thinking that you really want to exercise a subject to strategy, you're just going to need to make sure that you're working the right type of lead. Because I can go back a slide and tell you that the people you find here, these absentee owners, code violators, they may be more than happy to let you take over the payments because they've got a big problem house on their hand that they're tired of paying for.
And they're not behind 6 to 8 months.
Right. So you've got a little bit more room for repair money or to at least make some money on the mortgage assignment. So
it's a kind of a cliche term, but you're a real estate, I think, what did one of the students said, oh, I'm a real estate engineer. You've kind of got to engineer this and make sure that it makes sense for the end person. You know, don't look at what you want, and because the market doesn't care about you, the wholesaler. Let's just really be honest. At the end of the day, do you have something that is attractive? And if a consumer doesn't think it's attractive and an investor doesn't think it's attractive, it's not attractive. And so you've got to engineer something.
It's kind of like when you trade in a car at the car dealership, you really don't care how much money the dealer needs to try to make on that car. You just, want to get the new car that you're there to get. I mean, so that's a very good example, George, that, people don't care what you want to try to make. And guys, George, why don't you real quick just touch on the marketing strategy, the exact marketing strategy that the listeners need to implement in order to maximize on these three types of leads that are on the screen?
Pre-foreclosures, it's basically, 18 days. Your life revolves around 18 days and 11 days before the first Tuesday auction. So 18 days, you need to have it in your calendar to be mailing, a postcard, at least, the same postcard twice. So on 18 days, the list comes out. We're always done with the list in anywhere from 20 to 19 days before the auction. So you get all the leads, you scrub your data, you get your leads, and you start printing out the labels or send it to your fulfillment center. It should be in the mail on Friday. All right, you want them in the mail, and that's always 19 days before the auction. And then the 11th day is Friday, and you know what? Sometimes I don't get any calls off the two. Rarely do I not get one call. I usually get, out of 250 to 400 postcards, I'll get around 1 to 2% calls. And out of that, I'm trying to construct which ones are motivated, which ones have a chance for me, that there's enough equity where I have an interest in buying those or getting them under contract and trying to wholesale them to someone else. But it really revolves around 18 and 11. On the post-bankruptcy, post-bankruptcy are people that most likely
George, we lost you again. Okay, well, in the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and continue. When George is able to get his microphone fixed, we'll pick back up where he was. Okay, I want to talk to you about these strategies and implementing these strategies. Okay, it's going to take organization because you've got to script it out. You've got to schedule it out. You need to be able to use a spreadsheet program. You can use Google Docs. You can use Microsoft Excel. There's some other free spreadsheet programs out there. But you need to, for some of you out there, I know that you may be computer challenged, but let's face it, you got on this call. So if you got on this call or you're watching this video, let me just say, you need to learn how to use a spreadsheet program and sort the data and look at the data and total the data. Because at first we want you to start working lists that are provided to you. But the goal here is not to make you dependent on us for your business. And the goal here is to teach you how to grow from underneath our wings, so to speak. So, and you're going to have to commit to be consistent. I'm going to say this, and I'm not saying this in any way trying to call anyone out, but earlier this week, had some people say, oh, well, I didn't get any calls off of this or that, going to have to change strategies. Here's the thing. The reason people fail in this business is they try it once, it doesn't work, they quit and try something different or quit altogether. And then by the time they do generate phone calls, they've already disconnected their phone or can't change their mind about the business, and they end up throwing away $10,000 on the one good lead. So George and I have always told you guys that there is no magic pill. There is no silver bullet. It's a numbers game. You've got to commit to be consistent. You have to work more than one source of motivated sellers. Say that again. You have to work more than one source of motivated sellers. If it was easy enough to just work a probate list, make 20 grand a month, and golf 4 days a week, then the entire country would do it. I just got a chat that said there's no sound. Is there sound now?
You know what? Maybe it was my speaker. Sorry. I don't know if y'all could hear what I was saying. I just kind of looked, and then I couldn't hear you, Tim.
No, George, we lost you right in the middle of, I think you were talking about the nods.
Oh, okay. And you just went on and went.
Yeah, I went ahead and just went to the next slide in the interest of time.
All right.
But I can go back if there's anything else you wanted to say about this slide.
No, on the nods, it's basically every other month for 6 months. Because something's going to happen. They're either going to go to bankruptcy or pre-foreclosure. So I typically every other month I'm mailing a postcard to the nods, and again, it doesn't have to be complicated. I think the biggest thing is y'all have to just figure out a way to get these leads into your database and print out labels and send out at least a postcard to these people. Or, post-bankruptcy is every other month. Nods are every other month. Pre-foreclosures is twice, 18 and 11. And I'm happy if all of you guys send out the same darn postcard on all of those.
Yeah, because here's the nice thing is, hey, even if we were all sending the exact same postcard just with different phone numbers, then we're branding that. It becomes a consistent message. It's a brand. It will help us all. And George, the Foreclosure Listing Service does sell the nod list now, correct?
No, we did it. We did it for several months, and then I didn't like the provider. I've been using another provider, but I wanted to do them personally before I I can get the data. Let's put it that way, Tim. I get the data, but I used another provider out of Indianapolis, and this guy, it was not good. He was sending me stuff from refinance, and I just didn't like him. So I tried him. We tried him for like 3 months, and then I fired him. But I found another lady that her data's solid, but I want to try it because there are some issues with any type of credit bureau data, and so for the last 3 months I've been using her data on the nods.
Okay, so if a student wanted the nod data, is there something that we can tell them, or?
Yeah. Let me put it up. I'll put it up here. It's Black Book Data, or Black Book Data, or Data, and I'll get you the phone number and the lady who talk to.
Okay.
Let me pull up my Outlook, and I'll put it on here.
Okay. Well, while he's doing that, I'm going to go ahead and go back to my lecture slide. At the end of the day, I'll tell a story. I like to tell stories. In 2003, when I was the lead acquisitions guy for the HomeVestors franchise in Rowlett, where I now office, we were spending the exact same amount of money as 5 other franchises in Dallas. That year, I contracted 111 houses for that HomeVestors franchise, and the nearest person to us was at 80. And the CEO of the company, Ken D'Angelo, the founder and CEO, had me come to the corporate office and talk to people. And y'all can't hear me right now?
I can hear you fine.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's an old message. Sorry. Had me come to the corporate office, and they asked me what my secret was. And I very boastfully said that I'm not lazy. And at the end of the day, all of these lists and all of these zip codes, if you don't have access to these different websites that are out there that you can download from, you need to, at a minimum, if you're a student of Flip That Contract, at a minimum, you need to get out and locate. You can call FLS, and you need to get yourself 3,000 addresses in your backyard. And you need to send between 750 and 1,000 postcards a month. If you cannot afford to send 1,000, go ahead and send 750. You can go through Click to Mail, or you can call Platinum Direct. They'll send them for you, or you can wait until the end of October, and we'll have a program available. But right now, you need to get your list of 3,000 addresses. You can get that from Foreclosure Listing Service. Becca Roddy, you just email her up there at the office. You get 30% off your order, and you only need to buy the list once, and it's good for a year. So you really, you got to have that. You can choose to just get 3,000 absentee owners. You can choose to get 3,000 of a mixed bag of absentee owners and owner-occupied properties. I recommend you look at the median home price of your backyard. So we're going to take Dallas-Fort Worth as a whole. Dallas-Fort Worth as a whole, the median home price is $144,000. That means half of the sales are above $144,000 and half are below. The sweet spot is right at 80% of that number. So if you take $144,000 times 80%, the sweet spot is $115,000. That is the sweet spot. That is the house that they say 80% of the Metroplex can't afford. They say that is the house that is going to be your entry-level 322 brick house in Dallas-Fort Worth. So what I want you to do is, at a minimum, target houses on the tax roll with a cap of $125,000 and a floor of $75,000. And then you go to the deed ownership date. You don't want them to have owned the house for less than 15 years. So you're looking 1996 and earlier deed transfer dates. If you have too many, what you do is go ahead and back off the deed transfer date to get to where about 20 years. And then if you have too many, you go ahead and you tighten that bracket up a little bit. You go from 75 up to 80. Then you go from 80 up to 85. But if you send Becca at Foreclosure Listing Service, if you send her the list or the criteria you want, the zip codes, she'll send you back a count and the cost. And I'm telling you, you ought to have about 3,000 addresses, and you ought to mail about 1,000 postcards a month. If you're willing to do a lot of extra work, I can get your cost per piece on your postcards down to about 30 cents a piece, postage, delivery, everything. You might want to plan on 35 cents because I'm not sure my guys will give you my rate because I do mail a lot more. But even if it's $350, hey, $350, tax, title, license, out the door, black and white. I mean, if you're concerned about budget, that will make your phone ring. You will get phone calls. And that's the purpose of this training. George, you got anything else to add before I move on? Okay.
Hey, sorry, Tim.
Right. We're now marketing 101. I'm going to keep going over this slide. I'm going to beat you guys in the head with it until you get it. Marketing 101. Wholesaling's a numbers game. You're not buying on your own account. You're not out looking for the house that George wants to live in, or I'm not out looking for the house that Tim wants to fix and sell. You're looking for a house that is where the seller is motivated and the numbers work. Motivated seller, bad numbers, no deal. Good numbers, not motivated seller, no deal. Motivated seller, good numbers, deal. To do that, you've got to have prospects. These are the lists that we're talking about. These are the zip codes. And to get the leads, to get the prospects to call you, you have to advertise to them. And it has to be consistent. Monster energy drinks. I love to drink a Monster energy drink before I go coach a football game. Well, guess what? The first time I ever saw a Monster on a shelf, I walked right past it. I saw it again, walked right past it. I saw my buddy drinking it, didn't even give it a second thought. One day, I'm feeling tired. I think I need an energy drink. What came to mind? I'm going to have one of those Monsters. I've seen it in the store. I've seen the signs. I've seen my friends drink it. The residual exposure to me made me pick that up and go pay for it. Same thing with marketing. You're really waiting for a trigger event. See, my trigger event was I was tired and I needed some energy. Their trigger event could be a death. Their trigger event could be a hailstorm. Their trigger event could be a tornado. The trigger event could be getting laid off. It could be a new job. It can be a whole host of things. And so you're advertising this list of people I just talked to you about. These are people where the numbers probably work. And you're basically getting your name in front of them, waiting for them to have a trigger event where they call you and say, hey, I need to sell this and I need to move quick. And then that's how you turn a lead into a deal. And once you get a deal, that's how you turn contracts into cash. So, who are you and what do you do? And how are you going to get that message out there? There's two different ways, online and offline. We're going to talk about online. You got to have a seller squeeze page. There are people that will not pick up the phone and call you immediately. I got a lead off my squeeze page the other night, I think at like 3:30 in the morning. This lady inherited a house. It's in Garland. I've got an appointment on Thursday next week. She lives out of town. She is up at 2:30 in the morning worried about this house. She had a letter from me. It had my web address. She went. She watched the video. She filled out the form, submitted the lead. I called her the next morning. She didn't answer. She was probably still asleep from being up till 2:30. So then I sent her an email. Well, I got an email back from her. We did some exchanges. Finally got her on the phone. Bada bing, bada boom. Now I got an appointment with her. You need to have a buyer squeeze page. So, basically you need to always be, you always need to be selling. And right now, if you're listening to this call and you want to be a wholesale investor, you better be building your buyers list. You better be going to every single networking event that is available and collecting information. You need to be scouring through Craigslist and Meetup.com and all these other places that are online, DFWinvestors.com, and you need to be getting people's information. You need to send them an email. Hey, I've got houses coming. You don't need to bore them with the I'm gonna put that contract student and I hope to one day have a house. Tell them you got houses coming, because trust me, you're going to get a chance to market my houses. So you do have houses coming. Build your list. A Google Place. This is something that's so simple. When people search for Rowlett Cash Buyer, I show up for one of the first listings on Google because I have a Google Place. That's it. It's simple. It's not SEO. It's not rocket science. And it's free to create. You just go to google.com/places. So I should be able to search for Cash for Houses Carrollton and find Joe Snow. I should be able to search Cash for Houses Frisco and I should see Brian and Dave and George. And I should search Cash for Houses Allen and see Fred. And the list goes on and you get the idea. You need to get a Google Place. You got to put an address. They're going to mail a postcard to that address. You got to do a verification and bang, you're in. Offline, you got postcards and letters. We've already talked about those. I want to talk about door hangers. Door hangers. George, do you have any formats of door hangers?
Hold on. I've got some on Roddy Network that Emily created. They're just really, the whole perforated where it does over the knob, it is kind of a door hanger, but I just slide it into the front door.
Yeah, it's more.
You know what I mean? It's kind of a flyer, but it's on cardstock, and I've got the template for that on Roddy Network, and it basically, has a phone, and it's really more for pre-foreclosure and NODs. It just says, hey, do you need to sell your house quickly? And when I would be driving properties and knocking on doors, I just slide it in the front door.
Guys, what I'll do is I'll email Steve, and I've got an old template. I'll need to do some updating to it, but we'll get you a door hanger template, because as you're out beating the street with feet on pavement, a great way to get people to call you is when you see one of these houses, knock on the door and put them a door hanger. And then here's another thing. If a house is vacant, I'm going to teach you my red letter technique. If a house is vacant and nobody around the town knows where that person went, you get your normal We Buy Houses letter and print it on a red piece of paper. Walk up with a thumbtack or a piece of Scotch tape and tape it to the door or thumbtack it to the front door. Guarantee you they're going to call you, because when they drive by, what does that look like? Code violation. Makes them think they're in trouble. It's going to get their attention. You're going to be able to find that person. Print ads. My experience with print ads, if you want your phone to ring, you can spend 50, 70, 80 bucks a month, put an ad in the newspaper, put an ad in the Green Sheet, put an ad in the Observer or whatever, and you can compete with the other 100 people that do it. And here's what happens. I'm in the yellow page. I'm in the newspaper. I look down. Real estate wanted. Cash for houses. There's 6 of you. I dial 1-900. Call George. I'd say, hey, George, I got a house, 123 Main Street. Come over and buy it. Okay, great. Thanks. I hang up. I dial the next number. Hey, Brian, I got a house, 123 Main Street. Okay, great. I hang up. I dial the next number. I'm telling you, I've gotten into more goofy bidding scenarios off of newspaper and yellow pages ads because they've got a menu. It's just like when you go to a restaurant and you're hungry. You've got all this food, and why not have an appetizer and a salad and an entree and a dessert? It's all right there in front of you. Well, same thing. When they're looking in a Green Sheet, they've got a menu of home buyers. And, hey, why only call the guy that sent me the postcard? Why not call all 40 of them? And me personally, I don't recommend print ads. I feel as if unless you have the money to pay for the very large display ad and commit to a 12-month contract, it is not worth the money. Unless you just want to practice answering your phone. In that case, go ahead and get one for a month or two, and you'll get to talk on the phone to people that aren't going to sell you their house. I wanted to do this real quick, and I'm going to try to do this more often when I have an open afternoon or an hour or so. But guys, if you want your phone to ring, which we all do, understand this. George and I are teaching you a targeted strategy to get qualified people to call you. If you just want your phone to ring, well, I mean, go put a bandit sign up on the corner and the city will call you tomorrow. I mean, that's guaranteed. Or, you can put bandit signs up on the weekend. We're shooting a guerrilla marketing video right now. It's going to teach you all about bandit signs and door hangers and all that. I plan to have that done by next week. So the next thing I'm going to ask you is this. Where do you stand? What is it that you've done up till now that this is almost September 11th. We've almost been doing this for over 2 months. All of July, August. I mean, we're almost to 3 months. No, August, yeah. We're almost to 2 months. What have you done? Have you designed it? Have you figured out what area you're going to target? Are you going to be ready? I'm telling you, D-Day is October 1st. If you're not sending out advertising collateral and on a consistent, scheduled approach by October 1st, I'm disappointed. And if you feel like there is something we haven't taught you that we should have, I need you to go to the Flip That Contract portal, and under the community section, there's a conference call suggestion. I need you to start posting some stuff there, because I'm telling you, this isn't rocket science. You may feel overwhelmed, but at the minimum, you need to have your backyard defined and about 3,000 addresses that you plan to start sending postcards over the next 6 months. If you don't commit for 6 months, you're most likely not going to like the results. George?
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, we can lead you to the water, but we can't make you drink. And, sometimes it falls back on the trainer, but at the end of the day, you can take all the notes you want and you can read and dissect as much as you want, but there's an old adage that says you take notes and then you take action. And I think it's time to take action, guys. And some of you guys, are doing that. And but at the end of the day, you've got to implement some direct mail marketing, and that's what's going to propel your business. And until you do that, but some guys are looking at REOs, and I'm like, they ain't going to cut it. I mean, the big thing is diversification. Do not put all your eggs in one lead source. I don't care who tells you, we're not proponents. We're not telling you that. We've never said just go after one lead source. You need to market to several lead sources every month, because laws change, policies change, things change, and we don't want you left without any phone calls every month. And so I promise you, all of these leads, these leads that we went over today, they'll pay for themselves. It will pay for themselves over a 12-month period. So do I buy a pre-foreclosure lead every month? No. But is it an absentee owner or an NOD or a code compliance? That's the thing, is you got to get this marked on your calendar and have some type of way of downloading the list, getting it, and then mailing out postcards. And if you're confused on what postcards to send out, don't be confused. Just send out one. I mean, that's what I would say, Tim, is confusion leads to inactivity. And so do not be confused on marketing pieces. If you just have one marketing piece, that's fine. That's better than sitting there thinking about it and trying to contrive a great marketing piece. It's the ones that send it out every month are the ones that are going to get their phone to ring.
Okay, I've got about 3 minutes I can devote to questions. Anybody got any questions?